Hey guys, this is our CMAS review day 2. Today we're going to be talking about rational number addition and subtraction. So for our investigation, we have during a football game, Kevin gained 5 yards on the first play. Then he lost 7 yards on the second play. We want to know how many yards does Kevin need on the next play to get him back to where they started. Show your work. So to visualize this, I'm going to say here's where they start. Let's just call it 0 because that's their beginning point. We know he gained 5, so gained is telling me it's positive, so I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then he lost 7. Lost means he went back 7, so extend my number line a little bit here. If I count back 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So right now he's back here at, we can imagine these are the negatives, he's at -2. So if I want him to end up, let me get a different color, coming back to where he started, it looks like he needs to go 2 more spaces. So to show this with math, we're going to say he went +5, then he lost 7. We know that he ended at -2. Then we need to say he needs to gain 2 more, since -2 plus 2 would get him back to 0. Awesome. All right, let's look at the next one. All right, Paula's checking account had a balance of $531.82. Balance, since this number is positive, we can just say it's positive because balance is just how much money she has. During the week, her paycheck of $864.21 was automatically deposited. A deposit is when you add something to your bank account, and a paycheck, you make money, so this is a plus. Then her car payment of $276 was withdrawn. This one is a payment, so she was spending money on something, and withdrawn also means take this out. So our expression is going to be she's starting at this $531.82. She's adding her paycheck, and then she's losing this money. And you could say minus, or you could say plus a negative, same thing. So in order to find how much money is in her account actually, we need to combine the positive ones. So 531.82 and 864.21. Make sure your decimals are lined up on this. We'll need to carry, and we'll need to place our decimals straight down. So this is how much positive money she has, but then she loses some money for her car payment. So we're going to subtract that amount. Again, make sure your decimals are lined up, and then we're going to have to borrow. 3 minus 4 I can't do, so I've got to go to the next place. 0, can't borrow from 0, so we've got to go all the way to the 6, make it a 5, make it a 10, make it a 9. 13 minus 4 is 9. 9 minus 4 is 5. 5 minus 6 can't do, so we've got to borrow again. 15 minus 6 is 9. 8 minus 7 is 1, 3 minus 2 is 1, and bring down the 1. So she's left with, and this is going to be positive, $1,119.59. All right, next one, here we go. We have 2 numbers are shown on the number line. For some reason this didn't copy, so I'm going to take a second and fill this in so it matches your guys' paper. The number line looks like this. We have -1, 0, and 1. And then we have n over here, pretty close to -1. And we have p over here, kind of in the middle, maybe slightly closer to 0. Now, our task is to compare these operations. So n minus p, n plus p, and p minus n. We're going to decide which of these is the smallest or has the least value and which is the greatest. So n here is n because it's negative, it's far away from 0. P is positive. So if we have n minus p, and again we can use our number line, we can think about starting at n and going down the value of p. So we'll end up here in the negatives. If we have n plus p, again start at n, but we're going to add this value, so we'd end up a little bit over here, still in the negative, but closer to 0. And then the last one, p minus n, we would start at p, but then we're going to subtract n. However, since n is already negative, when we subtract a negative, really it's like adding. So this will be positive. So I think that means p minus n, since that's the only positive one, is the greatest value. So the last one is the greatest. And then between the top two, we want to know which one is smaller. So if we think back, n minus p we said would go to the left, and n plus p would move to the right. So this first one is the least value. Awesome. All right, let's fill in our key points. So rules for you guys to remember. Anytime we're adding rational numbers, there's two scenarios you could be in. Either your numbers have the same sign, so two positives, for example. You add the numbers and keep the sign. That one's kind of simple. Two positives, add them. Two negatives, still add them, but keep the sign you started with. They might have different signs. So if you're adding, for example, a positive number with a negative number, you're actually going to subtract the numbers. And you're going to take the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. So for example, that one might be something like -4 plus 6. I have a negative number and a positive number. So I'm actually going to do 6 minus 4 is 2. And then I know it's positive because 6 has a larger absolute value. All right, if we have subtraction, so maybe something like 3 minus 5, we're going to rewrite it using keep, change, change, and then use our addition rules above. So keep, change, change, remember, is just the way that we change subtraction to addition. We keep the first number, we change the operation, so subtraction becomes addition, and then we change the sign on the second number. Right now it's a +5, we're going to make it a -5. So 3 plus -5, now I'm in this situation. I can subtract them to get 2, but since 5 has a bigger absolute value, it's going to be negative. All right. Last thing we're going to do for our video is the next practice section, because this problem, again, for some reason it didn't print, but I'll write in the problem so it matches your paper. This problem you have to change to fractions or decimals to solve. So our first one is 2.65 plus 3/4. Let's do this one as decimals. How about? So 2.65, already a decimal, convenient. 3/4, if I think of money, 3/4, I know 1/4 is 25, so 3/4 is 75 cents, so we can write that as 0.75. If you weren't sure and you forgot, you can always set up division for a fraction and go 3 divided by 4. And you can hopefully see that if I do this division, I get 75. So now they're both positive. I'm ready to add, just like regular, and I get my final answer, 3.4. Awesome. Last one for our video. So we have -3/8 minus 2.2. Very first thing I'm going to do, since I have subtraction, is I'm going to rewrite it as addition. So -3/8 plus -2.2. Now, since our last one we did as a decimal, let's do this one as a fraction. I like making decimals into fractions because all I have to do is say my number. I can say this number as 2.2, or I can say it using place value. 2 is a whole number, so I'm going to keep that at 2. Decimals are and, so 2 and 2/10. I know this is tenths because it's in the tenths place value. So if I say the top number right here as 2 and 2/10, that's exactly how I say this number, 2 and 2/10. So we're going to make -3/8 plus -2 and 2/10. Now I have a tenth and an eighth. That's no good. We need to make some common denominators. So between 8 and 10, I can imagine listing out all my fractions and keep going. Or I could say 8 times 10 I know is 80. So 80 is going to be my common denominator. You could also think maybe that number could be smaller, but we could simplify at the end. So let's leave it as 80 for now. So I'm going to multiply by 10 over here to get me to 80, and I'm going to multiply by 8 over here to get me to 80. So 3 times 10 is 30, so -30 over 80, plus -2, the whole number can stay, we're just changing the fraction, 16 over 80. Okay, now I'm ready to add. It looks like I have a negative over here and a negative here, so they're the same sign. So I'm going to just add my numbers. Since 2 is the only whole number, let's leave it right there. And then I'm going to add my fractions. 30 and 16 for my numerators is going to get me 46 over 80. They're both negative, so negative. Now we do have to simplify a little bit because 46 over 80, I can simplify by 2. 46 divided by 2 is 23, 80 divided by 2 is 40. So our final answer is negative 2 and 23 40ths. Obviously, you guys can see I did a lot of work over here. This is why it's really important for you to have scratch paper out all the time, especially if you're doing fractions or converting to decimals or rewriting your problems. So I want to see scratch work today, and you can get the rest done on your own. Great job. Good luck.